this. If you travel on the turnpike, go to the western part of the state or wherever, it costs a fortune. It's crazy. Anyway, my question is there anything you guys can do about it? Has anything been brought up? Where are we with that? Thanks.
Yeah, so the term, as you kind of alluded to, the turnpike operates at a deficit every single year, and the reason is because PennDOT is taking money. We were paying at one point, we're paying $500 million a year was coming out of the turnpike fund and going to the motor license vehicle fund, which is PennDOT's fund. That we have sped up that sunset provision so that less money is coming from the turnpike, such that and really what it was going to was the fund state police. And also mass transit in Philadelphia. This was all part of the deal for a number of years ago to fix roads and bridges with Act 89. But that number is coming down dramatically, and I think this year it's down. It may even be down to $100 million coming from PennDOT or coming from the turnpike into PennDOT. So we have accelerated that amount of money coming out of the Turnpike Commission. The Turnpike's somewhat privately run. I think, and Dan, maybe you could talk about this.
It's an independent commission.
Yeah, you could talk about that, but they did try to sell the Turnpike. This is before my time.
I was there for that.
Yeah, so.
One of the very, very few times I ever agreed with Governor Rendell. One of the very few. And I looked at this issue really hard before Torren was in the legislature. There was a company, I want to say England or France, I can't remember, English company, that was going to lease the turnpike. And all the provisions were set in place for maintenance, how high they could raise tolls, and they literally were just going to pay Pennsylvania, and it was several $100 million per year, and they were going to run it because they can run it much more efficiently, and they do this over there all the time. This is what that company does. And Rendell said, you know something, you got to take all that labor off of us, all that pension off of us, put it on their backs instead of the state's backs, and we're just going to get a check. And when we looked at it, there was a group of us, and probably half of the Republican caucus, that said, you know something, this is a good deal, and we should take it. And the Senate killed it. That made it to the Senate, because the House we had the votes in the House. And it was one of the few times that I agreed with an issue with Governor Rendell, but it got killed because there wasn't a deal made on something else with the Senate, and the bill never made it. So we tried at one point to unload that turnpike. Now, would it have worked out for us? Tom would tell, but that company's still in business today, from what I understand, and that's what they do. They manage large highway systems overseas, and they wanted to take care of this one. And boy, do I know how expensive it is. I just used it the other day to go to Philly. Believe it or not, as chairman of agriculture, I had a hearing in the ghetto in downtown Philly based on urban agriculture, and the only reason I'm saying this is you guys need to hear this one. As per Governor.
Wait a minute, how long is this going to take?
30 seconds.
Okay.
All right. It's going to cost me what? It's in the email, yeah. But we actually spent $1.5 million through the Farm Bill in Pennsylvania to get these things up and running, and basically there is, in my opinion, there is no such thing as urban agriculture. They're called gardens. And this particular one that we were at was a place where several row houses had either burnt down, fell down, or whatever, so they cleaned up and made a lot. And they had about a dozen beds that were about as long as this building, 5 foot wide, and each person in the community could sign one out and grow their fruits and vegetables in it, whatever they wanted to do, right? Out of the dozen beds that were in there, probably 9 of them were empty. And that's the kind of money we're throwing at it, to the Farm Bill. Now you say, well, why do you guys let that happen in the legislature? That money's not assigned by us. That's assigned by the Department of Agriculture. Well, who oversees the Department of Agriculture? Of course, the Secretary. Who does he report to? The Governor. Who started this program? Wolf. Okay? Farm Bill is not a bad thing, but when it adds things into it like urban agriculture, even if every bed was filled, how many families would that fill or feed? How many families would that feed? It's a nice idea. It's quaint. It was very quaint. It's nice. Hey, these people are doing some gardening, but at your expense, big expense. But yes, I know how much the turnpike is because I just used it.
All right, next question.
Hi, again, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate your time. Are you doing anything in Harrisburg to ensure that the 650,000 extra votes over the voters that were registered in Pennsylvania are not contacted where the voter rolls again? We want an honest election, and we want to know that our vote really counts.
Yeah, I think the one we talked about earlier was SB1, which would require voter ID. That's something that's still really pushing. We're pushing really hard for that. I think we were hopeful during the budget negotiations the governor would that would be a policy win, that we would get some type of voter reform. Ultimately, nothing. I mean, obviously the budget's not complete, but that nothing has come out of those negotiations. I know the Senate did push that as an issue. We have passed reforms on that. House Bill 1300 and House Bill 1500. Again, Wolf vetoed both of those last session. Those bills aren't set to come up in the House. I don't know exactly what's going on in the Senate as far as some of the election reform stuff is concerned. But getting back in the majority and getting voter ID on the ballot is kind of been our goal, because it's the only thing we can control right now in the House.
I think election reform, this is just Dan speaking. I'm not speaking for anyone else. I've been doing this a little while, and I can tell you that when it comes to the urban areas, when they tell people that are pool watchers, you can't come in, and they will actually call the police down, and the police will say, that election official says you can't come in, stay out here, or you can stand way back there where you need binoculars to see what's going on up here, and they get away with it. And there's rooms in the back where they wheel out boxes of ballots, which we all saw, and they count them anyway, or they pull out trunks from underneath the tables with skirts on them, and nobody in those urban areas is going to stand up and say no, and they run them through the machine anyway. How do you fight against that? You can pass all the laws against criminals you want, but criminals don't follow laws. And places like Philadelphia has been a bastion for corruption for centuries. And how do you stop it? Well, you fight back, okay? We'd be in the majority right now, and I had this argument with HRCC, which is it stands for the House Republican Campaign Committee, okay? We all worked through that to help Republicans get elected in Harrisburg. And I had a pretty straightforward, this is the way it's gonna have to be, or don't look for me for any help. Because the Democrats have shown us how to win elections. And we're still hanging bags on doorknobs. And 90% of them get taken off the doorknob and dropped right in the closest trash can. If we'd have just implemented one simple thing, and it does take some money, okay? We could have won the special election. It was at Chester? Delco. It's in Delco, Delaware County, okay? We could have won that because we lost it by 2,300 votes. Do you know how many write-in votes the Democrats had? Not write-in, mail-in votes? 2,700. If we'd have just had, say, 20 people to either mail out or make a call and say, hey, I see you're a Republican that doesn't vote often, I know you're busy. How about if I send you an application? How about if I stop at your house and I'll bring a stamp with me when you get your ballot, and I'll stamp it for you, totally legal. You and I can walk it together to your mailbox, and I'll even put the flag up for you. If we'd have just done that with 20 people and said, each one of you over the next 6 weeks, find 150 people to do this, we would be in the majority today. But we just assume these people are going to do it on their own, and they don't. But the Democrats have a machine that does exactly what I just said. And that is hard to fight against. So until Republicans get wise and say, you know something, lit drops on doorknobs don't really work. It's almost the same as when people stand at pools. And I know some of you are not going to like what I'm about to say, but it's true. When people stand at pools and they shove something into somebody's hand that really doesn't want it, what is the first thing they do with that card when they walk in the door? The first trash can they go by, it goes in. Because I've seen many people go in and get them out to recycle because they ran out of them, and they keep doing it. Well, people don't really want that. And if you really want to vote, those people are coming to vote anyway. They're already there. It's the people that are too busy or too damn lazy to get out and vote. Those are the ones you got to go and kowtow to them a little bit and say, here, I am here to help you. Not going to cost you but a minute of your time, and I'll put the stamp on it for you. That's what Democrats are doing, and we got to do that. We got to do it better.
All right, we'll do that in Adams County. If you want to